I feel like you need to disclose then what's the
Everybody, welcome to the Mortgage Coach Friday Mastermind. I am coming live out of Scottsdale, Arizona, hometown, Phoenix, Arizona, right next door with my my bro, Todd.
Hey man, it's always fun to get to hang out live in person with you and be able to share with all of you.
Yeah, so we've got a great call. I will frame it in a second, but Deborah Bird, I am digging that t-shirt. Go Mortgage Coach.
Todd, you want to let everyone know where to get this awesome shirt?
You know, you just have to go to store.winbynoon.com and you can buy the Mortgage Coach shirt, decals, as well as Win by Noon apparel.
So, I just got a long sleeve little sweatshirt thingy, which it's a lighter weight. That was a Win by Noon.
I like it. I like it. So guys, we're going to elevate the bar. To do the TCA Day challenge, you need to win by noon. And so, you know, go to Win by Noon, get the shirt, win by noon, do a TCA a day, and you are a winner. So guys, we got a really special guest today. I think most people on this call know who this man is. His name is Rene Rodriquez. If you are a new loan officer in the business and you're tuning in, let's put it this way. Almost every top producer that does 300 loans or over a year in the Mortgage Coach community has gone to his training. They would consider Rene he's like the coach's coach. So most of the most successful speakers that are on stages in the mortgage industry have been through Amplify training. It's extremely important to be your best. You know, that's always a slogan at Mortgage Coach, be your best. We don't think you can be your best without a total cost analysis. And I don't think you can be your best without learning from Rene. So follow him on social media. We're going to tell about a big event he's doing in Vegas at some point in the conversation. But today's call was inspired because Shayla Gifford, who I interviewed a couple of days ago, $200 million consistently team leader, who also manages a region for Guild, does over 1.5 billion. And she's a leader of coaches. So she's a real iconic teacher and leader in our community. Her and I did an interview, and it was all about, we've had this radical, intense pivot to purchase. And it was, what are the 4 things that she's telling the loan officer she leads and her team, what should they be doing right now? And it was called the Shayla Gifford's Realtor Playbook. And Rene saw it. And we were planning to have Rene on a call, but he's like, you know what? My wheelhouse is helping mortgage professionals kill it with agents. And he's like, Dave, do you think we could do a call this Friday, Tuesday, sometime in the next couple of weeks, where it's the Rene Rodriquez Realtor Playbook? So here we are. Welcome to the stage, Mr. Rene Rodriquez.
Oh, well, I'm just going to have you guys introduce me everywhere. That'll be good for my self-esteem. It's awesome. Well, it's good to be here with you guys, and good to see all you. I'm excited for today because the reality is, this is like the 5th time we've had this in the last 20 years. This is the cycle of where we go. The realtors get all the attention, and then interest rates go down and they get ignored. And then they start going back up, and everybody goes, oh man, I better start paying attention to realtors again. And then they all come back, and realtors are used to this. And loan officers, if you're not used to this, you're either new or you haven't been paying attention. So I told you guys, I felt a little feisty today because I want to talk to all of us about a couple things. One, what I'm going to go through today is not new. And if you're looking for silver bullet stuff, if you're looking for something that cuts through the fundamentals, it's like going to the gym and going to the trainer and saying, hey, I want to lose weight. And he goes, well, let's see what you're eating and how much exercise you're doing. You're like, I heard that last time. I want something new and fresh. They're going to look at you crazy. Fundamentals don't change. So we're going to go through fundamentals, but then maybe some new ways of looking at the fundamentals. We're going to look at some data. We're going to look at some research. I'm going to give you some script stuff that's on the community already. But I want to remind us of what you know already, that you got to have value. These people have been ignored. These are things that you can do. These are activities that you can engage in. And so when we go through that, I think that's kind of where my head is at. Dave, I think there'd be kind of a good conversation. I don't know, are you guys going to be part of this? I think some of this is good to kind of riff back and forth on.
No, we want this to be a mastermind. We also want anybody in the community that has a question for Rene, we'll save that for the end, put him down below. I did put a link in all channels to that Shayla Gifford interview. I think that's a required, if you want to be a mortgage coach, if you want to be your best, check out that interview. But, let's make sure we keep Rene on pace. So Deborah, let's not go on any rabbit trails. Let's follow Renee's playbook and make sure everything you want to share right now gets shared. Renee, if you think we're run out of time and you want to make sure you focus, we'll just stop asking you questions. But in the meantime, you start, jump on, like do a TED Talk, and then we'll ask you questions as
Sure.
we go, and community do the same.
So feel free to interrupt. Are we on till noon, correct? So about 55 minutes?
You got 54 minutes.
Perfect.
That was the only thing I was going to say, Dave, is I may poke holes in some of the things that I'm hearing from the loan officers that I'm talking to, that maybe Renee could help debunk some of the mindset things that they may need to get over, that I think Coach
Bring it.
Renee would
Bring
be
it
able to
all that stuff.
stick it to them.
But
Yeah.
let's do that, and let's make sure we get 75% through before
Yes.
we start bringing in the audience. I want to make sure Renee
Yeah.
unpacks everything he wants to share.
Love it. All that stuff. Yeah,
excited.
just interrupt as you see it. So I want to go back to a call that we did a while ago where I did what I called numbers first, story second. And I think one of the things that I think every company needs to adopt is a culture of what we call numbers first, story second. And a numbers first, story second culture is one that makes no excuses. Think of the reverse of that. Story first, number second. John, how many calls did you make? It's like, well, I got up this morning late. It's like all of a sudden the story begins. Jim Rohn has a great analogy. He said, John, I manage from a little box. And he said, I just need a number from 1 to whatever. How many calls did you make? He's like, well, John, I just need a number. And John says, well, John, let me remind you, this little box, I make it small so a story doesn't fit. And so that's what we call a numbers first, story second. And the moment you allow story first in your company, even for yourself, is the moment you start creating a world of delusion. The reality is we're in a business that has to create sales. We have in a business that needs to have activity, and that activity needs to be measured. And so when we start measuring that activity, we start seeing what we can improve or move up and move down. Now, the story second is important. Somebody says, John, how many calls did you make? He goes, 0. I say, okay, great, John. I want to put a 0 right here because that's just called reality. Why? Well, my grandmother died and I had to do something. You know what, John? Understandable. What can we do to help? Or, well, I don't know. I was just cleaning my inbox and email and the day got away from me. John, not acceptable. You're not paid to do that. And so we have to really start thinking about the reality of what we're paid to do and what we're not paid to do. And now it's going on over 20 years. I've been working with loan officers and thousands of real estate agents, thousands. And that relationship between the two has always been a fascinating one. It's been one where the real estate agent was holier than everybody and will do anything to get their business, to now we're starting to see sort of this shift of what's happening. Well, we still have the prima donnas on both sides. We have all that sort of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about value. I did an interview several years ago for the Niche Report, and I interviewed a good friend of mine who's the number 1 real estate team in Minnesota at the time. I had this conversation with Jason Mitchell, the number 2 team in the country. And the things that they came away with, and I started asking them, well, what is it that you want out of a loan officer relationship? And this was with Ryan O'Neill. And the thing that he said, he goes, we would partner well with a well-intended originator. Promises were made for many reasons. Those promises were often not kept. Obviously, that didn't happen with every transaction, but it happened enough where, as an agent, you become cautious. And so here's what I want to get at, is the first thing we got to do is build a foundation of trust. If you can't build a foundation of trust, it doesn't matter your value proposition. It doesn't matter how many leads you have. It doesn't matter anything you're saying. If there's no foundation of trust, they're not going to do anything. And here's the unfair part, is that there's a lot of people before you that have made calls to that exact agent you're trying to get a hold of that have probably breached trust, overpromised and underdelivered. And so you're guilty by association. Now, we can get into all the framing and all that sort of stuff. We're just going to get into the how-to of all of that. So when you start building a foundation of trust, this is where your personal brand comes into play, the concept of ethos. Who are you? Who are you to the marketplace? What's your essence? When you're not around, what are people saying? And so this piece of being able to build trust goes far beyond the handshake and eye contact and telling a great story. The trust is going to come down to, they're going to analyze your systems. They're going to analyze your operations. Can you keep the promise that you're making? And so people are always telling me, well, can we get to the script? I'm like, my script works. I've tested it with thousands of people, 88% success rate. But there's nothing worse than having a script that works and a process that doesn't fulfill your promise. So we're going to really dissect that, move our way through the process of really truly creating a foundation for success. and what it looks like in the long term. So as we started talking even more, we started looking at how agents and loan officers could really start working together. I called it the article, Embracing Reality. And embracing reality really meant that these two relationships really had to come together to understand that the lender plays a critical role in the transaction, not just getting the money. And good agents understand that role far beyond what leads are you going to give me. And that's the thing. It was like, it's another quote from Ryan. He said, "It's great when a lender says the right things, but that's only just the beginning. My team needs to see that they have the support and resources to back their promises, and the good ones conduct the same review on our process as well." Listen to that. The good loan officers look at our processes as realtors. And so what happens is this is a power dynamic. If you're going in there thinking of yourself saying, "I'll do whatever I have to get your business," that works in the beginning. And you'll get business from that. And if you're new at it and you're hungry, that's a really endearing way of doing it. And then there's another side of it too, is when you bring a lot to the table to say, "Hey, great, I'd love to work with you. But let me ask you, I generate leads too. My reputation's on the line just like yours. How are you going to keep your promises? Tell me about your systems." And start asking that question, because too often we're being asked the questions. When I say we, the loan officer, being asked the questions and being led down a path that's usually driven by fear. And we don't want to be led by somebody who's just scared of something. We want to drive towards value. And if you're going to drive towards value, that means you need to ask the questions and you need to be the one that pushes things forward to the conversation towards that value. And so when we're looking at this, we're going to say, okay, how do I build that foundation of trust? How do I make sure that they do that? Once I build that foundation of trust, now we can move into strategies of how do we grow the business. But once that's there, trust, operations, so trust and keep the promise. Now we can start doing that. And so last quote from Ryan, he said, "My newer agents get frustrated by this." And I asked them, because you see, the value of the loan officer isn't about generating leads. And that's the thing I've told agents for 15, that's 20 years. Stop expecting loan officers to bring you leads. Now, those of you loan officers that actually do bring leads, kudos. You are holding the power. You are holding the leverage. Awesome. And for those of you that aren't generating that lead, don't see that as your only value proposition. It is one, and it's a great one, but it's not the only one. But I tell agents all the time, stop expecting that. And a lot of times they're coming to you right now. Of course, they're going to the internet, all the sorts of stuff. But right now, we're looking at the values of the overall experience that the client is having. A lot of the stress falls in the hand of the loan officer. And that's why they're so weary about giving deals over to the loan officer. And so he says, "My newer agents get frustrated by this." And I asked them, did they close the deal for you? Were the clients happy with the experience? They need to learn to see further beyond lead generation and into ensuring that the entire client experience is a positive one. This is coming from the #1 team in the country. Back when I did this, now it's Jason Mitchell. And so looking at all of those things, building a foundation of trust first, making sure your operations can keep the promise, and then getting into business development. So those three pieces are what I call the foundational sequence that you need to have. Because what happens is you're going to get out there and you're going to use the scripts we're going to give you, and then you're going to make promises. And if you didn't do your due diligence internally, you might find yourself in a worse off position, making promises that weren't delivered. So now let's go to the next piece. Numbers first, story second. So I did this study several years ago where we tracked 10,000 dials. This was with 100 people that we worked with. And we said, we're going to track 10,000 dials. I'm going to give you the exact number. We took 4,872 dials to actual clients and 180 dials to real estate agents. And we tracked to measure what needed to happen. So before we do that, I want to go back to something you've probably heard me talk about. If you've seen any one of my keynotes, if you heard me talk about this, it's the first 5 numbers that really build the foundation of how we're going to measure and track all of this. And it's the numbers 1, 1.5, 2.5, 5, and 25. So I want you to write those numbers down. Numbers 1, 1.5, 2.5, 5, and 25. Now, what a lot of people, when they look at this, I ask them what it is. And if you've gone through this and you don't remember, then you know what? You need to be a better student. This is your job. This is the things that you get paid to do. So remember these numbers: 1, 1.5, 2.5, 5, and 25. And a lot of people will forget that this is just an inverted funnel, right? It's all it is. This is the things that I've got to do. So let's look at those numbers. If I want one loan, I need to have 1.5 of something. And what is that 1.5? Remember, we get into dependent events, law of averages. They come from applications. If I want to make paper, I've got to go first cut a tree down. It's not a negotiable conversation. I can't say, well, I want paper. Great, go cut the tree down. Well, I don't want to cut a tree down. Well, then you're not going to have paper. But I want paper. Well, go cut a tree down. But I don't like cutting trees down. Well, then you're not going to have paper. But I want paper. Well, go cut. Do you see how idiotic this conversation sounds? It's no different than saying, I want more business. Great, you got to start prospecting. But I don't like prospecting. Well, you're not going to have more business. But I want more business. Well, you're going to have to start calling real estate agents. But I don't like calling real estate agents. Well, you're not going to have more business. But I want more business. Do you see how dumb this sounds? These are dependent events. Now, I'm talking this way because I wanted to get through. I'm talking this way because this is something that your income, everything depends on your ability to grasp this. This is a sales approach, okay? All your marketing efforts will support this. But I want to be clear. Marketing is not a cop-out to selling. You can't replace it. You need to have both. They're two very different disciplines that are very needed. We're going to talk about the sales approach because we can immediately control that. And there's much better people in this community to talk about the marketing side of this, which that's when I take notes. And so loans come from applications, right? So 1.5 apps because you have a 66% conversion ratio, right? So that's what that looks like, right? Loans come from apps and you have about a 66% conversion ratio. That's good numbers to have. Now, this is also super conservative. Where do apps come from? I'm giving you the details. I'm giving you the secret. They come from meetings and presentations because they convert at about 60%. One come from 1.5. They don't come from one because of fallout, the law of averages. Now, 2.5 meetings comes from what? 5 leads. And that's at a 50% conversion ratio because about 50% of your leads will meet with you. And then where do leads come from? If you remember this, they come from talk tos. And the more you talk, people say, well, phone calls. It'd be great. You made 50 phone calls and no one answered. Doesn't really matter. You actually have to talk to them. Because 20% of your talk tos will convert a lead. So it means every 5 people you talk to, you'll generate at least 1 lead. So this mathematics right here is the beginning. But we need one more variable to that equation. Let's choose the average commission being $3,000. Okay? The average commission being $3,000. Now we can derive everything from that. We know the value of an application. We know the value of a meeting. We know the value of a lead, and we know the value of a talk to. I'm going to give you the math quick because I want to get to the actual scripting. If you divide 3,000 divided by 1.5 apps, you get $2,000, right? Because that's now the value of your application. If you believe in the law of averages. If you don't, you're in the wrong business, but I think we all do. So meetings. What's the value of a meeting? $3,000 divided by 2.5 brings you to $1,200. Okay? $1,200. You get paid $1,200 just to meet with somebody. And unfortunately, too many people in this industry, your presentation is, so what's, can you get your social security number? And that's the presentation. So the good news is you can still do a lot of business that way, but not for long. This industry is getting smarter. It's getting more competitive. It's getting tighter. And it's going to require tools like Mortgage Coach that say, let me show you what's possible in different scenarios. Let me change the equation. People are going to come to you all the time. What's your rate? And that conversation is the saddest one of all, because that says that they don't know what else to ask. And if they don't know what else to ask, but you feel compelled to answer that question, you have validated a question that really isn't important. The response to that question, please go ahead.
So Rene, I want to make sure we make this a little interactive because folks, Rene just shared a formula for like, what are your numbers? And especially for all the win by nooners on this call, you know, you should know your numbers. They're documented. You should be tracking them. Rene, I want you to say what you recommend as the numbers one more time. And then everybody, I want you to put, what are your numbers? So anyone, and again, if you want to say my goal is this, or if you want to say, hey, you don't have a story, you say, this is what I did. I want to hear what the audience is doing for numbers. So what are the numbers that you think loan officers should be focused on right now?
Well, this is a number, not what they should be focused on. These are the numbers. I'm taking an average at the lowest. If you do these are the results you're going to get.
And
like
it's interesting.
if you do these activities.
Yeah, and I would say that's, you know, I saw the numbers. You said talk tos were 25. I saw that a little bit lower during the refi boom, right? It was closer to 20. And then I saw it last year, the second half of the year, win by new users were tracking, and that number increased a little bit. It went a little bit over more like 28, 29. And so I love your average. I think your average is spot on.
I love that you have the exact, I love that you follow. That's why I love Win by Noon, is you guys are following as the seasons and as the interest rates change, which you've got to be able to have that reality. And so,
well, it's how you know whether you need to increase your activity or not, right? If you just sit there and you wonder, well, wait, I closed less loans, and you didn't realize that the numbers change. And so that's really why I'm all about tracking numbers day in and day out, and really making sure you know where you're at.
I love it. So,
okay, Rene, we have a few questions in the chat too. Well, first of all, Michelle Castle said I could listen to Rene all day. He brings value to every conversation.
I love you, Michelle.
Super fan. But when you said talk tos / phone calls, does that mean attempts, or that means you've made the call and you've actually talked to somebody?
It's always about a talk to. Attempts,
okay.
I think dials are important. And that's the one I'm going to get into the numbers right here afterwards.
Okay.
Because there's so many variables in dials. You know, if it's like, well, I called 50 people, no one answered. Well, what time did you call? 3 a.m. Well, that makes sense. You know, so there's factors of time and date and, you know, weather and what's going on. Called during the Super Bowl, not a smart time. You know, there's all sorts of factors that play into it. We look at the tangible pieces, and you do want to track how many dials, which I have some data on this based on the 5 of the 10,000 calls we made on that. But yes, the talk tos for sure.
And so just to recap, they're saying if we on average have 25 talk tos, then we should get 5 leads.
5 leads for every 5 people, you generate 1.
And then Keith Collins, second, he re-endorsed whatever Michelle Castle said, saying super fan of Rene. So go Rene.
We love Keith too.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I just want to make sure we get a good audience sharing. What are your numbers? You know, what are your goals? What are you hitting? We're in this together here, and at Mortgage Coach, we are dedicated to your success. You know, the way we do it is by providing you with a total cost analysis. The way Todd does it is Win by Noon. Deborah helps blow you up on social, and Rene gives you the skills. So Rene, you're killing it, brother. I do want to make sure at some point we get into, you know, meetings on a combination of Zoom or in person. Shayla had a killer script that she's giving all of her loan officers on how to have a meeting with a realtor and how to provide leadership. Part of her advice was every real estate meeting should either be in person or on Zoom, and she gave some scripting on that. So whenever you're ready, let's get into that, but keep it rocking. Okay?
Yeah, so I'm just building the foundation because I got the script staring at me right here. And what I always get scared at is it's a script without foundation. I like to build that from the inside so that you can actually make these numbers even better than we're telling you. So I'll show you the last part here. So we know now 2.5, your meeting's $1,200. That means that your leads are worth $600. That's, what is it? 3,000 divided by 5, 600. But the craziest part is your talk tos are worth $120. And I have done this so many times. And I want to do this. This is my social experiment. I mean, you get $120 just to talk to somebody. But I need to hire some people, Dave. I apologize. I'm going to do a little recruiting here. I need to hire some people. I've got a room, I've got a phone, and I've got a list of leads, people. I don't even leads. These are just people. Actually, I need to generate some leads. And your job is to pick up the phone and dial. And every time you talk to someone, if you ask them about a mortgage, refinance, or purchase, and you just talk to them, they don't even have to take an application. They don't have to say yes. Just talk to them. I'll give you a $20 bill. And those in the chat, raise your hand, put an X or something in there to tell me who would do that. If you just talk to them, I'll give you $20. Crisp $20. Let's see how many people. All right, perfect. I'm getting a lot of people. Okay, perfect. Me, definitely. Awesome. I will hire all of you. And why would I hire all of you? I'll hire all of you because I just hired you to do a job that pays you $120 for $20. So I'm going to pay you $20. I'm going to keep the 100. Does that sound like a fair deal? I don't think so. But here's the crazy part. Why the hell did you just accept that job? We just walked through the math. We literally just crafted the entire process on what to do and how to say it. And the value of each step. And that part was worth $120. And then 15 seconds later, you took a job for $20. That is the psychology behind why we're not doing this real well. That's the psychology behind why when I'm on a great diet, and I'm like, when I say diet, I'm eating clean, I'm working out, And then I see Cheetos at the wrong time. And I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just have one Cheeto. But no one has just one Cheeto. No one does. It's impossible. It's the same thing that we say, you know what? I'm going to save more money this year. And then you see that thing, that purse, that thing you want, and you spend the money. It's the same psychology as to why I'm going to have a better year this year. And you take the job that you could have been paid $120 for, you took it for $20 because you couldn't delay the gratification. You didn't trust the process. And so I do that to help you realize that's what you're facing right now. I can give you the script, and you're going to get excited after this call. I'm hoping my energy sort of infuses some of that into you. But if you don't understand that psychology, none of it matters. This is why accountability is so important. That's why I love what you guys are doing with your TCA a day. That's called accountability. You're part of a community. You're part of a team that re-energizes you and reminds you why you're doing this, keeps you focused on what it is that you're trying to do towards a direction of your goals. The brain has a funny way of distracting us that. So now that you feel like I've duped you, which I have, I did it on purpose, but I did it because I love you guys. I did that to show you what's possible, okay? And so I'm scrolling to the bottom of my Remarkable because I hit a button and it went all the way back to the beginning. So let's go into this whole piece. I want to go into the numbers. So we tracked, I'm just going to talk about Realtor dials, okay? We tracked 5,180 Realtor dials, and here's what we found. I'm going to read this to you. Realtors answer the phone 61% of the time. 61%. So for every 10 dials, I talked to 6 agents, basically. And so 61% of the time, which is way higher than we expected. Now, of the 61, ready for this? 31% set appointments. And 24% generated a lead. Now, if that doesn't sound like automatic money, no, we just talked about the value of, so 31% set appointments. Remember, appointments are worth $1,200. Those are meetings. And leads are worth $600. I mean, think about that for a minute. All of that stuff is critical. Now, let's go a little bit deeper. 61% of the agents, that means that we've spoke to 3,160 agents in just a few months. And of the 31%, 3,160 set appointments. That's 900 of the agents we spoke to, 980 set appointments. And at 24, that was 758 leads. So we generated 5,180 dials, 3,180 talk-tos, 980 appointments, and 758 leads. So when you do the math, here's the math that we came up with. Average loan amount being $200,000, pretty low. Average commission, $3,000. Takes 5 leads, generate 1 loan, 20%. Good realtor. Now, this is an interesting thing. What's a good realtor worth to you? What is a good realtor worth? And I hear people say, oh, 2 to 3 loans. I say, okay, so a good realtor is worth 2 to 3 loans. I say, great. How many good realtors do you work with? They go, I don't know, like 3 or 4. I'm like, okay, so 2 to 3. So you doing 9, 10 loans? No, doing like 3 or 4. We just said a good realtor is worth 2 to 3 loans, and you're working with 3 or 4 of them. Math doesn't equate. And so the reality is a good agent is worth a half a deal a month. That's how we look at it. 6 deals a year times $3,000. That's $18,000. That's an amazing amount of money for a realtor to give you half a deal, one every other month. Now, a great agent is worth a deal a month. That's twice the amount. That's $36,000 a year. Now, an amazing agent, now we're getting to some bigger numbers. But I like to look at just a good agent, one that's worth a half a deal a month. And so what we looked at was it was about 10 meetings to generate one good realtor, the half a deal. It's about 10%. Now, Todd, what's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, first off, I love it that you guys actually track the numbers, right? There's so many people here who are, their head is spinning. So like, what are the numbers? But you've got to actually track your numbers. So start today. If you're not doing it, get out a piece of paper, write down the things that Rene said and start tracking, right? You don't have to have a planner. You just need to do that. But I think it's genius, right? I mean, the whole question then really for all of you who are listening is, are you going to make the 10 calls to the realtors today to get the meeting, to get the relationship that Rene's talking about? You got to take action.
Absolutely. So I'm going to show you the numbers. Here are the numbers. So the math is simple. 758 leads should translate into 152 loans times 200,000. That's 30 million plus in volume. 150 loans to 3,000, 456,000 in commissions. If every dial is worth $88, Or every dial is worth $88. Every talk to is worth $144. Every lead was worth $600. Now this was crazy that we predicted 600 and it was 601 after $5,000. That's called a regression to the mean. That means the stats are good. So if you want to make $100,000, you talk to 5 people a day. If you want to make $500,000, you talk to 25 people a day. Now, here's where it gets a little bit wild. 25 people a day. Seems like doable, seems like a lot. 5 people a day seems like a lot, but I say, okay, I want to talk to 5 people a day. Okay. So I didn't talk to anyone today. So I just got to talk to 5 people the next day. No. You got to talk to 10 people now. Because the law of averages doesn't really care that you were sick or that grandma died or that you were on vacation. It just looks at the averages. It is emotionless. It just looks at a cumulative number of everything that you do, of activity. And so if you have a 0 day, that means that that translates over to the next. And if you have 2 0 days, now you got 15 talk tos to make up for. This is why you hear from all of the greatest people that consistency is everything. Consistency is everything. And so this isn't about massive runs and things like that. It's about consistent little efforts every single day, talking to people and having something good to say. So then, now we have the rationale. We know what we're doing. So then now you got to show up and have something good to say. And how do you get those appointments? And I want to get into the script and the psychology behind the script that we always talk about. And then some of the nuances within it. Like what happens with people are jerks and what do we do about that sort of stuff? And my podcast, I talk about this stuff. If you don't follow my podcast, follow it. Go to meetrene.com. It's all there. The book's there. Everything's there. So the psychology of this script, and Todd, I'm going to play off with you if you would, okay? I want you to imagine, Todd, go like this, right? I want you to imagine above, just a little bit higher than your head, right? There's a little iPod, a little screen above Todd's head. And right above Todd's head is what he's really thinking, okay? And you don't have to hold it up the whole time. Just imagine it.
All right. Well,
even though
they can't see me anyway, Rene. I'm just standing here. I'm thinking they're my antlers, but there's what I look like.
Oh, they can't see you. Okay. All right. Good. So I thought they were looking at everybody. So now imagine above, so, you know, the Realtor's head is a little iPad, right? And right above that little iPad and that screen is what people are really thinking. Okay. And I use this example all the time. A guy walks up to a girl and at a bar, she's there. She wants nothing. She's on a girl's night and he's like, hey, excuse me, do brown shoes or black shoes go better with this? And she looks at him like, really? That's the only thing you got? Like, we know it has nothing to do with your brown or black shoes. You're just trying to get X. And so now, same is true. You call a realtor. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, God, I've heard great things about you. I'd love to get together and pick your brain and just, whatever your pitch is. And they're thinking, you just want my leads. And so this underhanded, underlying approach needs to stop. The reason it doesn't work in the dating world is because it's a passive-aggressive, manipulative lie. And guess who doesn't like passive-aggressive, manipulative liars? Well, no one, especially real estate agents. And so we need to learn to be a little bit clearer and transparent about what it is that we're doing. We're in business, and that's okay. We're here to add value to one another, and that's okay. And not okay, it's actually the reason we're doing this. And so all of these different elements come together in the concept of, we go back to this fear of rejection. And I want to eliminate that fear of rejection. You have the fear of rejection for only one reason, is because you have an underlying agenda. I want to talk to somebody, and I've done this. I did this literally last week. We had a guy that was in our course, single kid, handsome guy, good looking dude. How do I use this? And they were all talking to him. How do I use this stuff to talk to girls? And he goes, I just get so nervous. And we were at dinner that night, and he goes, I just get so nervous. I'm like, okay, you know what? Before we continue this conversation, would you mind asking her over there if we can park out front? I'm double parked. I don't know if I'm gonna get towed. I'm gonna run to the bathroom. Will you find out if we can get double parked? He goes, yeah, sure, no problem. Goes up and talks to her, comes back. I come back. I'm like, oh yeah, what'd she say? She goes, oh no, we're actually good. I said, were you nervous? He said, no, why? I said, well, she's an attractive female and you weren't nervous. He goes, no. I said, because you didn't have an agenda. You just talked to her. You just asked a question and you were honest about it. And guess what? She talked to you back. And so we need to change how it is that we approach the mentality of business development, the approach of how we lead generation, with to stop with the hidden agenda. Do we want leads? Absolutely. but I want to replace that desire for something better. I want to work with people who believe what I believe. I want to work with people that are going to make me better this year, and they're going to push me, and they have the same commitment to excellence as I do. So if we can replace those two, I don't care about leads. I don't care about any of that sort of stuff. You got to tell yourself that. I care about working with good people that are making this industry better, and people that I like and they like me. Now, guess what? If you like somebody and they like you, you know what? It's real easy to do? Business. So we have to change that. And the reality is, I'm going to sell you on this. You don't want to work with somebody that you don't like. You don't want to work with somebody who's difficult in terms of in real estate. Just somebody doesn't share the same values, because what they're going to do is refer you the same kinds of people. If I were to ask somebody here right now, how many of you have worked with an agent or client that was just really stressful, and you would have said, I don't care about my commission, I'll give it all back to be done with this? I think the answer would be 100% of us. And the good news is there's a lot of opportunity out there where you can say no. You just have to decide what it is that you will and won't tolerate, what is it you're trying to do, and who is it you want to be. So this entire script is built around that concept. And so for it to work, for it to be of integrity, you have to buy in to what it is that I'm talking about. That you want to decide every year to surround yourself with really good people, to surround yourself with people that are going to help you go to the next level, people that are going to make you better, and have the same commitment to excellence as you do. So if you agree to that, put something in the comments as your commitment to say, I agree. So now, with that being said, you can say what the script said with integrity. So here's how it goes. And I'm going to look over here. And I'll give you guys a download. You guys can all download this stuff. I'm going to give you all the numbers and everything. Dave won't let me leave without doing that. It's good. So that's why he's the best. So Todd, you're going to be my agent. And the first phase, this has 3 phases in this. And I write these in phases because the scripting that I write is based on the realities of conversation. They can go left, right. And I try to prepare you for where we're going, what happens. And if people start saying things that maybe you weren't prepared for. And so the first phase is what we call greeting and root control. Okay, the greeting. And I want to set the right root, the right frame to the conversation. So I say, Todd's going to be the agent. I say, hey, Todd, this is Rene Rodriquez calling on behalf of the XYZ mortgage team. And I hope I'm not interrupting anything.
Oh, no, Rene, what's going on?
So now that was a nice response. So we're going to assume this first time we're going to get through it, he's going to be kind of nice to me. And so most agents, if you are polite enough and astute enough to say, hey, I hope I'm not interrupting anything, it's a politeness that usually will reciprocate, right? If you go in and you just start talking and they're busy, you immediately start off as an annoyance. And you don't want to do that. And if they say, you know what, actually I am in the middle of something, you say, hey, no problem. I have something really fun I wanted to share with you, and I can call you back is there a better time? And so something really fun I want to share with you. Sounds a little different, but you'll see why it's fun. So he said, great. I said, great. Well, the reason I'm calling is your name came up in a meeting last week now there's 2 ways to go here. If this is a referral, somebody brought him up, an agent or anything, I'm going to do what's called the triangle for trust. We all know that. It goes back from the old Joe Stump days, the OG Joe Stump. Triangle for trust. Yeah, hey, your name came up in a meeting last week with Sally, and she had brought your name up and as somebody who's doing some really cool, unique things. Now, that's if Sally comes up. If this is a colder call. Now, those of you who say, I don't like cold calls, that's because you just don't know how to do them. They don't have to be cold that long. They can become warm real quick, and I'll show you. And so your name came up in a meeting last week as an agent that's doing some new, cool, and unique things in the marketplace. And gosh, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought, congratulate you on that.
Really? Like, that's awesome. How do you know Sally?
Oh, so we're going back to Sally. Let's pretend like you don't know Sally, right?
Oh, okay.
Right, because that's easy. It's like, now we just start talking about Sally and the conversation's over, and it's like, it's in. That's why referrals are so good. So let's go. So now immediately when he says that, the key to this is, the root control is, if I stay silent after he says something like that, he's now triggered to ask a question. I'm not going to let him do that. I'm not going to let him do that. Watch what I do. So I'm going to do that again. Great. The reason I'm calling is that your name came up in a meeting last week as an agent that's doing some cool, unique things in the marketplace. And I thought you'd want to know.
Really?
Yeah. So how do you like working at Keller Williams so far?
Oh, I really like it. Gary's the best.
So pause there. You notice how he immediately asked a question about the company that he works for. That doesn't allow his brain to access any sort of negative rebuttal type questions. It's a top-down process. And so if I can immediately ask a question in the moment. Now, people ask me all the time, how else can I use this? I use this to get past lines at security, at concerts, in places I shouldn't do. Because the moment that I'm walking up and I see a security guard and they're about to ask me a question, I ask them a question. I say, hey, hold on a second. I got a question for you, Mr. Security. Come over here real quick. How does, if I ask a question, they cannot process their question and answer mine at the same time. There's the Jedi mind stuff. But now, here's this piece. Immediately he says, so how do you like working at Keller Williams so far?
It's great.
That's awesome. I got to tell you, I read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and I think it's genius that you guys wrote a book that all your competitors reference. Even the stuff I learned in that book apply to even other businesses I've been a part of. Is the training as good working there as it is in the book?
Oh, it's ridiculous. The people who come visit us are amazing.
That's fantastic. That's amazing. So now, here's the other thing I want to tell you, and write this note down. You should know the story of the top 10 brokerages in your market. You should know the story inside and out. You should have the books. You walk into a Century 21 office. You talk about the history of how long they've been around. You walk into a Weichert office. You should know that they consider themselves the Ford of the industry. You should walk into Remax as they're the Mavericks. That's why they pay out so high. We've got the highest talent, highest producing. You walk into Keller Williams. It's a family culture. You walk into a what's the other one? Sotheby's. They're the high-end luxury, the bigger experience, the glossier paper, the heavier quality. But you should know the story of where it comes from. I'm not even selling your stuff. And why do I know these things? And why can I have a conversation around each one of these? You should know those. And if you run a branch, visit every one of the offices and say, hey, I want to know the story of Remax and why you chose Remax. Do you have a book on it? Where's the Remax book? And they're going to be like, oh yeah, actually we have one. And they'll probably dust it off and they'll bring it and say, do you mind if I borrow it for a week? I just want to learn. You can find it online, how it started, and then why the branch started. So when you have this conversation, see, I've been to Mega Camp. I've been to Family Reunion. I've seen everybody wear red. I've hung out with them. And I can go back to, I said, Family Reunion. I said, I mean, have you been to Family Reunion? I went to one of those, like 10 years ago. And that was one of the craziest experiences ever. And he's like, yeah, oh my God, we went and we're having this conversation immediately. Now, I have done successful root control here. And now I'm going into the big decision in what's called the root frame. And so once we do this, I don't do this too long, right? Have a couple conversations. I say, well, the reason I'm calling is that our team made a decision in 2022 to surround ourselves with agents that are of like mind and share the same values and commitment to excellence as we do. From what I heard from Sally, or from what I can see from our conversation and your online profiles, sorry, I stalked you a little bit. By the way, that's a very important phrase. Sorry, stalked you a little bit. About 20 years ago, that would have been creepy. 2022, it's a compliment. Oh, you stalked me? Oh, cool. What'd you find? Well, that's awesome. Well, that's cool. You can find me on there? Like immediately, it's like you're famous. And it's a compliment. So sorry, I stalked you a little bit. That is an immediate compliment. And so from what I can tell from your online profiles, it seems like there might be a fit. And so we might share some of those values. Pause, allow them to respond. If they don't respond, you just move on. So I'm looking to find a time next week, Todd, for you and I to get together and just explore this a little bit more. Key question. What days of the week are bad for you?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm really busy right now.
That's fantastic. So now you're being a jerk right now. That's what Todd's being a little that'd be very nice. So now I can be ready for you in that one. But now for that to happen, I would have wanted to come back to see your response to my previous question. Okay. So I'm going to go back to that whole piece. Normally what happens, I've done this. I've never gotten anybody to say that. You know why that when I say what days of the week are pretty bad for you? You know why that's such a powerful question?
Because they haven't thought about it yet.
Right. What happens is that if I were to say what days of the week are work for you, I typically would get the response that Todd just gave. Is wow, none of them, because we have a neural pathway geared to answer that question. When I ask a question that they haven't heard before, they have to think, and they're more likely to give a more truthful answer. Now, if he were to give me that, say, I'm really super busy right now, I say, I know exactly what it is. And this would be my response. Todd, I too am generating a lot of leads and looking to put together my dream team of agents that I can trust. But hey, it sounds like you've got more business that you can handle.
Oh, the takeaway, I like it. No, I don't have more business I can handle, Rene.
Well, and you know what? I think, you know, I say that very respectfully, Todd, because I know that it sounds like, from what I can tell online, it looks like you're doing some amazing things. So I would not be surprised if you had more business you can handle. But if you did want to get together, what days of the week are typically bad for you?
Oh, Mondays are terrible.
Mondays are terrible? Great. So now he just gave me 4 possibilities. Now, do you notice that phrase? If you get somebody pushing back, a lot of people misunderstand the tone of the takeaway, where they make it as in, well, fine, I don't really have to give it to you then, like this sort of takeaway. But when you take it as, hey, I completely understand. I too am looking to build my dream team of agents that I can give my referrals to, because we're doing some pretty cool things too. But it sounds like you have more business that you can handle. And from what I can tell online, it doesn't surprise me. Congratulations. And so I'm praising them on that. And I'm also not showing any level of desperation, because remember, I don't need the business. I'm not trying to get a lead. And so when he throws me off, he can't, because I wasn't on to try to get a lead. You remember that? If you didn't, you're here to find people that work well with you. Hey, I'm really busy, doesn't want to. No problem. It sounds like you've got more business you can handle. Hey, congratulations. When you think slow up, I'd love to hear about what you're doing to do that. But then I'll also throw in, hey, we're doing some really cool things too. And I too am looking to build my dream team of agents that I can trust to hand those leads over to. But it sounds like you've got more business that you can handle, which is fantastic. Congratulations. I mean, that's the goal. And so usually at that point, if you say, you know, hey, I appreciate that, it's a very respectful way. And what ends up happening, if they truly are more than they can handle, they're going to respectfully say, hey, you know, I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. And they hang up and they go off to their business. If they're a jerk and they want you off, they're like, yeah, no problem. They don't want to do it. That's okay. Your goal was not to get a lead. Your goal was to find people that you like and have the same common values. And so it doesn't feel like a rejection at that point. You have to be clear on that psychology entering this conversation. And so all of that goes back into that. And of course, we enter the last part, the alternate choice. We call it the reduction from the broad to the much more narrow. And so what days of the week are bad for you? It says Mondays are bad. I'm going to choose 2 days between a yes and a yes. I'm not going to say, great, does Tuesday work? No, great, I've got a Tuesday or a Thursday. Which day is better? Option 2. So I go from 2 days. Then the next question is, choose a day, Tuesday or Thursday?
Thursday's great.
Thursday. So now Thursday, I'm going to cut that in half. Morning or afternoon? What's better for you?
Well, you know me, afternoon.
Afternoon, right? Because you got to win by noon, right? Afternoon. Wonderful. So now I'm going to cut that into 2 time slots. Cut it in 2. 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock? Which is better for you?
4 is perfect.
Wonderful. Now I'm going to 2 other options. Would you like to meet at your office, or do you have a favorite coffee shop?
Oh, I love Pete's Coffee.
Pete's Coffee? That's actually one of my favorites. Now here's the magic phrase at the end. What do you drink? I'll have one ready for you. You don't say, would you like me to get a coffee for you? What's the answer always? No, I'm fine, thanks. But if you come into their office, they say, you know what, we'll meet at my office. Say, wonderful, what do you drink? I'll bring you one. I'm grabbing one myself and I'll bring you one. What do you want? And then they go, wow, they feel like, okay, he didn't allow me to say no, so I guess I have to, which most people would love a coffee, right? Unless you're in Utah. I did this in Utah. Like, I don't drink coffee in Utah, right? So you got to be careful where you're at. So that's the script. That's where we're going with it. And I'll pause here. What time is it? Let me see my clock here. What time is it? Okay, we're doing good. About 11 minutes, but that's the process.
So the way I listen to that, I think while it is absolutely a script, it's a structured conversation. And,
exactly.
And, you know, I would just push every mortgage coach member to, it's time to upgrade your structured conversation. You know, every branch manager and team leader, it's time to get aligned with your team. You know, what fits your personality, what fits your market, what fits your model. I did put a link in our Facebook group to Jeremy Forcier's 5 questions he asked at the meeting. So what Rene just did is he gave us a great structured conversation to get the meeting and to break the ice. We probably don't have time to get into all the things you would do at the meeting, but we got a lot of scripts. Remember, guys, we got a script playlist. Any new loan officers listen to this that you want, you know, I need more scripts, because we have, you know, maybe 50 hours of scripts between the Scriptapalooza, between the what's your rate call. And then we have all kinds of realtor scripts. So check those out. Todd, anything else you want to say before we bring Deborah in?
Yeah, Rene, what happens when you give the script about, well, I've got these leads and I want to partner up with a like-minded person? Was a little more eloquent how you said it, but what happens when they say, well, hey, tell me about your leads? How do you get them back off of that and get them back on track of scheduling an appointment?
I say, you know what? The leads are the easiest part of the conversation, as you know. You generate leads. It's finding who are the right partners. That's the tough part. And that's why I wanted to get together. I think of it more as a mutual interview.
Love it. Thank you.
Todd, what comes to my mind for that too is, doing the CMA a day challenge where they typically already have leads in their database right now. They just need help uncovering the gold. So you're trying to partner with the right agent where if you come together and you do this CMA a day or TCA a day mastermind together, you're going to help generate leads for them, just leveraging their own book of business.
Well, I think the key with it is, and that's why I wanted your script, Rene, is that I think as loan officers, we all want to get in and start selling on the phone and tell them about our leads. And the whole point is to not do that, is to do what Rene did and get them actually to want to have the meeting with you so that you're not having the meeting over the phone before you actually get together and build that relationship.
Absolutely. The meeting over the phone is you don't want to give somebody enough information where they think they can make a decision. It's too little information.
So Rene, I want to make sure we have time to cover this, because part of Shayla's message in her playbook a couple of days ago was you want to have all your realtor meetings either in person, and she's like, the more in person, the better, and or on Zoom. And I know that is where you are the master. So one, in the time that we do have, I want to make sure, one, you share a couple best practices. And then I also think, one of my goals is to get as many people from the mortgage coach community at your live in-person Amplify event. Last year when we did that event and Rene asked how many people, used mortgage coach or part of the mortgage coach community, I think almost every hand came up. And that is my goal again, is to help sell out this event. I will be there, Todd will be there, and it will be an event that's all about leadership. It'll be an event all about, presenting, showing up and having influence, whether you're in person, whether you're one-on-one, whether you're doing a realtor group meeting, whether you're on Zoom. So could you share some best practices before we run out of time? And then also make sure you tell everybody about your event that's coming up.
The best practices of when you get there, is that correct?
Yeah, well, Shayla's script. Okay, there you go.
So everybody write this down, LOVE, down the page like that. So that is the sequence of how you have a conversation. And the first one starts to listen. We need to listen. When you get there, people, because that was the thing, when we started booking these appointments, when I used a script, 88% of the time that I did this, and I would do this in front of roomfuls, was actually a Facebook Live, kind of deep in my Facebook there, of me calling agents. And I'd call it with 60, 70 people as an assistant and book 88% of the time. But the first one is listen. We want to listen to what people are saying, listen to how they're doing, but you're listening for something that you like, right? Because the goal is to find something you like about them. Observe their body language, but you observe with your ears as well if you're on the phone. You need to observe with your ears, where the tones go up, what they get excited about, where they cut you off, like where do they get passionate about, where do they lose energy? So you're listening and then observing. And then once you hear something you like, you validate it. Say, wow, that's amazing. Oh, that's really cool. I like that. And fine, the fourth one is expand. So it sounds like this. So Todd, what do you do?
Oh, I run a company called Win by Noon.
Win by Noon. Interesting. I love that, the name. Where did you come up with that?
Oh, I just came up in a conversation where I was telling a coaching client a story about how I structured my day and increased my business. And when I told him I did it all before 11:30, he said, "Oh, coach, you won by noon."
I love that. So you win by noon. What a cool, simple way of looking at things. And have you found that to be something that you still use today?
Oh, heck yeah, every day.
Every single day. And so now, if you notice, every single thing that I'm asking, if we were to go on to 5 or 6 other questions, we'd get even deeper, but I'm listening for something that he says and I'm expanding upon that. But listen, observe, validate, expand. And if you can do that without having to, keeping the spotlight on the realtor, not on yourself, instead of saying, like, for example, this is a way not to do it. So Todd, what do you do?
I'm a real estate agent.
You're a real estate agent. Awesome. And so how long have you been in real estate?
12 years.
12 years. Wow, cool. I've been doing this for 15 years. You know what I've come to learn in the last 15 years is now it's about me. We don't want to do that. So 12 years, oh my gosh. What have been some of your biggest lessons over the last 12 years?
Gosh, my biggest lessons is that you never know what the market's going to do next year. And so you always have to just work really hard in the market we're in and try to look ahead as best we can.
I love that. You never know what the market's going to do. It's funny how we try to predict it. And so when you say work hard, what do you like to work hard on?
Well, I like to call leads. I'm just a guy who picks up the phone and starts calling.
Old school. I love it. Pick up the phone and call it. So you notice how I'm validating? Old school. That's a validation. And so, but I'm listening to him. I didn't know where he was going to go with this, but I'm finding out something. He made me smile because I love old school, calling leads and the old school sales stuff. But it's something that I like. And guess what? The more I ask these questions, the more I find out things that I like about him. Instead of me trying to get him to like me, I'm proactively trying to like him. And that's the key to this. Stop trying to get people to like you and start trying to like people. That's what I would say about that.
So guys, write all of that down. Write down that quote. Stop trying to get the realtor to like you. Get them. You are trying to like them. And if you do like them, they're probably going to like you. Write down that LOVE acronym. Listen, observe, validate, expand. That is one of, I went to go to your Amplify event just to learn how to have more influence on stage. And that acronym was one of the biggest takeaways that I got. If you could just walk us through, we'll put a link down below, guys, to the event that's coming up. But if you could just give us high level for anyone that wants to come to that event, why should they come to Amplify Vegas?
I'd love to play the video. If we got it, I'll give you a brief intro and I'll play a short video that goes through it.
Go ahead.
You'll recognize a lot of faces there. This is the we do this once a year. We call it AmpCon, the Amplify Conference, and where we're not everybody can afford $6,000 per person to go through the private event where you got 12 people. And so we wanted to create an event that people could bring their teams to and still have a collaborative experience where everyone's engaged. If you ask anybody who's been before, it is a very different structure of an event. We are engaging with people. We are having fun. They're learning the psychology. They're doing workshops. And this year, it's completely different. We're gonna have a fuller experience, augmented reality to support what's going on. We're having all sorts of things. We've got Bradley. If you guys know the real Bradley, follow him on social media. He's going to be there. If you're a UFC fan, the founder of the UFC, Rorion Gracie, he's going to tell his story about how he uses story to be in major motion pictures, to Sports Illustrated doing a documentary on him. And Brad's going to talk about how he went from a talker to a speaker, learning the Amplify process. Dave's going to be, and Kelly's going to be our opening MCs. We've got some panels with some of the big names. Jeremy Forcier is going to be up there speaking. I talked to some other people. I've got Andrew Paul. I didn't tell you that, Dave. Andrew Paul is going to be coming up there, former Navy SEAL, and I was always a Navy SEAL. And Chief of Staff for Jocko Willink. We're going to talk about stress and performance. And that's going to be actually one of my favorite conversations, because if you can't manage your stress during times of performance, it really doesn't matter. And this is somebody that I went to Mexico with years ago. And if you've been to Cabo, you can't swim in Cabo 15, 20-foot waves. And this guy was like, hey, I'm going to go hang out for a little bit. And for 4 hours, we watched him dive in these violent waters. And he was as comfortable as could be. And he's a truly exceptional human being. And I'm excited for that. And so if you don't mind, Dave, I can play that video.
Go for it.
Cool. I don't know if I'm spotlighted, but I'll play it. Telling a joke and people laughing. It's that moment of significance where we feel like we have an impact that we're making on the world. We're going to be talking about influence. This is a time for innovation. It's a time for opportunity. And I'm going to test and challenge your reality. The further you get into psychology, holy shit, what I think is real isn't. Get through the emotions that don't belong. Get through the frames that just don't contribute. The only way to do that is through. You're doing great. You know why? Because you're up here, they're not, right? So who's the brave one right now? Awesome. Not all of us are as handsome enough that we just go up here and not smile the whole time.
This is the most valuable. That's where everything got better. My videos got better immediately. Sure, your videos are going to get better after Amplify. Let the secret out.
Understand that I can venture away from how it is that I feel, what I believe, to explore something new. Because I believe the search for truth from one place to the next. We're going to take you somewhere that maybe you've never been.
I was gonna have to watch my mother sell her wedding ring.
Communication, impact to other human beings.
Without ever using the word purpose, Rene helped us find.
Wake up and realize you can shine. To have the courage to step forward and shine big, to shine bright, to go through the and step forward into that as big as you can, without apology, without fear, and yeah, you may cry. Anyways, the world needs it. Awesome. So
Boom.
that's the
Get
event.
there, guys. Sign up today. Book your hotels. This is going to sell out. So get a hotel right away. Click on that link. And I hope I see, when Rene says, hey, how many people are here from the mortgage coach community? I hope it's literally every room every hand in the room. Rene, any closing thoughts before we go into wrap up mode?
Sure. I would say, early bird special is going to be wrapping up here soon. So the event is $595. Early bird is $495. And Mortgage Coach has a special code. If you use the code MC100, you get an additional $100 off. So it's only $395 to show up to this event. It is a no-brainer. We've designed this to be jam-packed full of value. $395 if you still do it now. MC100. And if for some reason that code doesn't work, which I think we confirmed it, you can use Rene100, but RENE. But do that, and I can provide you a link. I'll provide the link to this.
And you said,
in here
Rene,
to
bring
the
your
script.
team. You said bring your team. Is it a good event to bring your real estate agents too as well?
Lots of agents are going to be there. Steve DeLaviaga is going to be there as well, who's the host of the Modern Real Estate Summit. And there's going to be a lot of, I think Jason Mitchell is going to be there for sure.
Number one realtor in America.
Yeah, number one realtor in America. Yep. So there's going to be a lot of people here. I'm posting in the chat the link to download the script and the numbers. And
All right, guys. So I got a couple house cleaning things, and I'm gonna give everybody a 30-second closing thought. Go to the website today, put it in those codes. If you've got a team, play this video. There's a video on the website. Play it at your next team meeting. I do want to remind folks, I had a bunch of texts saying, hey, how do I get on Zoom? You got to go to our website, go to daily trainings. And so, every Tuesday, you need to log in and sign up for every call. So this is the Friday mastermind. You have to go into the day and click on it and sign up. So for those of you that are in Zoom, you did that. But just remember, just because you signed up for this Friday doesn't mean you're signed up for next Friday. It doesn't mean you're signed up for Tuesday. So if you want to be live in Zoom, like we had over 80 people in here, be here. Remember, it is also live in our Facebook group, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Todd, any closing thoughts for you?
All right, my closing thoughts, is all about taking action. So you've got to go back and rewatch this again and write down those numbers again that Rene went through, right? Rene showed you that it's $120 was what his study showed per call that you made for everyone you talk to, right? I call that a quality conversation. And so the bottom line is start recording your activities today and tracking your results, and then you'll figure it out. Obviously, me, I'm going to tell you that Win by Noon is the best tool for that, but it doesn't really matter. Get a piece of paper, start doing it so that you know your numbers, because isn't it cool to know every time you talk to someone how much money you're going to make at the end of the year by doing it today?
Yeah, your numbers for first, stories second. Tell that to yourself, tell that to your team, tell your coach to start holding you accountable. And you know what? That piece of advice alone will get your scripting in place. But be intentional. Have a structured conversation. Rene just gave you one that works. He has coached thousands of loan officers. He's got a tremendous amount of data. So, you may be listening and go, oh, my script's better than that script. Well, maybe it is. Share your numbers. But Rene has worked with a lot of teams with that script. It does work. So know your numbers, track your results, and then when you do get up to bat with someone, love them. Listen, observe, validate, and expand. And of course, use a total cost analysis. Rene, last words to you. Anything you want to say before we wrap?
Thank you guys for the opportunity to be on here and share what it is that I have a passion for. Thank you all for joining in today. And I really do hope I see you all there. And the book, the podcast, go to meet Rene. I'm going to put the link here to download the script again. And
Thank you,
putting it
brother.
right there.
You are, you give nothing but gold. Tremendous amount of value here. I will see you in person soon in Vegas. And guys, this call is a wrap. We'll see you on Tuesday. Jeremy Forcier did commit to doing a Jeremy Forcier's Realtor Playbook. So stay tuned. That'll be in the YouTube channel soon. And if you did not listen to that Shayla Gifford playbook, check it out. Rene Rodriquez, take care, my brother.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you both.
Have an awesome
Thank you.
weekend, everybody.